Welcome to the 3D method for creating flawless automations. My name is Michael Kittinger, and in this quick video, I'm going to walk you through the process that I use and have used to create thousands of automations and millions of dollars for myself and my clients. All right, so let me share the screen and we will dive right in. All right, 3D method for creating flawless automations. In other words, how to generate more income in less time working fewer hours, all without overwhelm, complexity, or hiring more people. So if you don't know who I am, quick, very brief introduction. My name is Michael Kittinger. I am a parentpreneur, father of four. I started my entrepreneur journey back in 2016. Since then, I've helped generate millions of dollars for my clients and I. And I've gone through a couple different businesses, but it started out as a marketing agency, running Facebook ads, things like that. And I would run the ads and generate, tons of leads for my clients, but they had no back-end follow-up systems, right? And so they would try to call the lead one time and the lead wouldn't answer. And then they'd come back to me and say, well, that was a bad lead. Well, did you try to reach out? How many times? Like, what did you have in place to follow up with them? And maybe you've experienced that. If you're an agency owner, you've probably dealt with this before. Or if you're a business owner, you may have gone through that to where you've tried to reach out once or twice to a lead and you didn't get a response. And so that was the end of it. And so back in 2016, when I started running Facebook ads, things like that, I realized I needed to build out the back end systems for my clients in order for them to realize the value of the leads that I was providing running the Facebook ads. Now, I no longer run the Facebook ads or Google ads or that side of it. My focus is building out the automation side of it, helping solopreneurs and parentpreneurs generate more income, again, without having to work 24/7. All right. And so since then, I've built out thousands of automations that have helped generate leads, convert sales, and just improve overall operational efficiency of the businesses. Last year alone, I created over like 35 pretty extensive custom builds, each one involving multiple automations. But for over 30 clients, the vast majority of them 6, 7, 8-figure a year businesses. So they've ranged from a solopreneur, an online coach, to somebody who had an entire sales team running thousands of dollars in ads every single day. And so I've helped, I've built out automations from small one-person companies to much larger companies and businesses. And just to reiterate, my mission is to help other solopreneurs and parentpreneurs build lean, mean, automated machines that allow them to have the business and live the life of their dreams. So, brief introduction, but this is not about me. This is about providing you value, helping you build out your automations through a very systematic process. Now, before we get into it, let's talk about the advantages of automations. One of the biggest advantages is right there, leverage. Right? With an automation, you build it once and it can run forever. Right? So it's like having a team of hardworking employees that work 24/7. They never get tired. They never take a restroom break or a lunch break. And they do exactly what you tell them to do. Now, you'll see here in a minute that you need to make sure what you are telling it to do is the right thing. Right? One of the downsides of an automation is if you don't go through this process and you set it up incorrectly, you give it the wrong system, the wrong inputs, the wrong steps along the way, it's going to spit out bad data. And if you don't catch it, it's going to do that over and over and over again. All right, so it's extremely important that you set it up correctly, and that's why this video is walking you through how to do that. All right, so it can provide a much better experience for your leads and clients. And you may be wondering, well, how can an automation provide a better experience for my leads and my clients? I'll show you a couple examples here in a second. But for instance, have you ever called a business, left a voicemail, Never got a response. Have you ever emailed the business? Never got a response. Right? Have you ever tried to communicate with a business and it's taken them days or weeks to respond? Well, what if you don't have to worry about that any longer? What if the business, or you as the business owner, what if you were able to provide, for instance, immediate back and forth conversations with people who visit your website, who call your phone number, who call into the business? That's providing a much better experience. All right. Automations can be the ultimate efficiency. Again, it's that whole build once, run forever. It can also help you make money in your sleep, and it can drastically improve profitability. So one of my businesses that I ran, we were doing pretty well. I mean, we were, 30, 40K months. But there was like zero profitability because we had so many team members on the team doing the different tasks. Right. And so even though it was, doing those kind of revenues, which wasn't a ton, I mean, it was only in business for a short time. And anyways, business partnership turned bad. But it taught me that you can't solve your problems by hiring more people. The answer can't be, I just need to hire more people. Hire more people. That will kill your profitability. And at the end of the day, right, it's better to say make $100,000 and take home $90,000 than to generate $500,000 in revenue and have $495,000 in expenses paying team members, things like that, right? So we definitely want to improve profitability so that we can take more pay home. So what are some key areas that you can add automation to your business? So first area, marketing and sales, right? Generating and converting leads is really what that boils down to. Second area, service and fulfillment. So we've got generating leads, nurturing leads, right? Indoctrinating leads, converting those leads into sales. Once they become a sale, once they become a client, okay, what is that onboarding process? What is that service process? What is that fulfillment process? How can we automate that so it's consistent? Every person gets the same experience, right? And then operations and finances. How can we automate different areas in our operations and our finances, the measurements, the reporting, notifications, things like that. So here are a few examples of some automations. Missed call text back. Again, would you like to turn missed calls into raving clients? There's an automation. Missed call text back. Works amazingly well. Database reactivations. Let's say you have a list of old, stale leads, right? And you want to re-engage them. You want to have re-engage interested, excited prospects, right? We can do that through an automation. Lead scoring. Not all leads are created equal. What if you had a way of knowing who your most valuable leads were, or who your most valuable clients were in terms of who spent the most money with you, right? We can automate all of that tracking. New lead nurturing. Listen, when a brand new lead person comes into your ecosystem, it's extremely important that you nurture them. You indoctrinate them into your way of thinking. You showcase your skills, your talents, etc. And we can do that by automating it. Then, after that, we want to put them into a long-term nurture sequence. Right? One of the biggest things with small businesses is they simply don't follow up with leads long enough or often enough. Well, what if we could build it once, and I call it the infinite nurture system, and basically until they buy or unsubscribe, they're going to get nurtured. Automatically engage and converse with leads when they are ready and on the platform they prefer with what I call smart automations. So there's automations and then smart automations. I didn't put a slide in this, I probably should have. So the overall system that I implement in clients' accounts, and that I'm going to be teaching you here in this academy, I call it the smart scaling system. Inside we use smart automations, the infinite nurture system, etc. All right. And then other example of automations is managing hundreds of conversations simultaneously, all without you having to lift a finger. And we can do all that through AI, through advanced artificial intelligence, back and forth conversations, etc. We can train an AI bot, which is really cool. And while that's not getting the focus of this video, there will be trainings, and there are trainings and videos on that. All right, so the 3D method. What is the 3D method? It's a simple method to make sure you build out the right automations and that they run the way you want them to. So there it is. Design, develop, deploy. Design, develop, deploy. All right. So D1, first we need to design it. We need to design that automation. So how do we design an automation? First, we want to determine the desired outcome. Right? What is it that we want to occur at the end of this automation? Then we want to decide on what trigger or triggers will start the automation. Right? An automation is simply you have a trigger, you have a series of actions. Think of an alarm clock. The time hits 6 a.m., that annoying loud beeping noise goes off, right? You have a trigger, you have an action. Trigger, action. It's really what an automation is. When this happens, then do this. Do it repetitively, go through this entire sequence. But in order to get the best out of your automations, we need to make sure we know what that trigger is going to be and what is that desired outcome. I have seen other people build automations that they come to me and they're like, I don't understand why this automation isn't working the way I meant for it to. And I'll go in and I periodically do audits of people's automations and things. And I'll look and more often than not, my response is, no. It is doing exactly what you told it to do. Now, what you told it to do may not be what you wanted it to do, but the automation itself is following to a T what you instructed it to do. All right. So by designing the automation first, by figuring out what is that desired outcome, what is the trigger that's going to kick off the automation. And then we want to map out each step of the process. Identifying any additional tools or softwares, things like that that are needed. Next, I'll show you some ways to actually design the automation. All right. Next thing we want to do is we want to think of ways the automation could break. I'll give you an example here in a second. Then we want to address or fix the automation to prevent those breakages. And then this last one, you may think I'm a little crazy, but I highly recommend you actually talk out loud, like walk through it, speaking it out loud through the automation, through the process. For whatever reason, some neurological thing, when you actually speak out loud and you talk through it, like you're walking somebody through it, bring somebody in, call your spouse, call whoever, call a friend, right? Or just say it out loud, walking somebody through as if they were sitting next to you. It's amazing your brain just works differently when you are actually saying something out loud and walking somebody through that process. All right, so some tools to design your automation. I've built out this automation build and tracking sheet. It will be down below the video. So what is the automation? What's the workflow? New lead magnet opt-in. All right. What's the status? Is it draft or is it published? It's in draft mode. What are, usually I come back to this, but I like it here in the front because otherwise it's way, you can have some pretty extensive automations. Okay, so if I'm thinking of a new lead, somebody comes in and they opt into my lead magnet, for instance. Okay, what could be some things that are going to go wrong with it? Well, what if they are already an existing contact, right? What if they have unsubscribed, right? I need to make sure I uncheck that unsubscription, right? Resubscribe them so they can get emails. Okay, what if it's an invalid email? What if it's a bad email? What are we going to do? What if it's, just try to think through what are some potential issues with this automation. All right. So what's going to be the trigger? When the form is submitted. Okay. That's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Step one, We're going to notify the user, the owner. We're going to send a thank you email with the lead magnet attached. We're going to wait a minute. We're going to send a thank you text, right? So you can build it out. You can go through and you can kind of think through this. Now, I do like to use this sheet, but this isn't necessarily where I start, partly because if you're like me, you may be more visual, right? Like, this is good, but sometimes I like to see it kind of mapped out. And so there's a couple things here. You could use something like Figma. And so it's pretty straightforward. Let me get the hand tool. So pretty straightforward. You could do something like the triangle for a trigger, right? A square for an email, circle for an SMS. You can do something similar in Lucidchart. So again, we can just come here and we can build this out. And then we want this to be maybe a square. So you can map it out. You can use sticky notes. So if you have, a thing of sticky notes, either on a whiteboard, something like that, you could say, opt in, email person, wait 1 minute, text the person. Now, I don't like necessarily just drawing it out by hand or something like that, because you want to be able to edit it. You want to be able to move things around, to rearrange, and that's really hard if you draw it, even if it's on a whiteboard, you can't move things around. So if you do use a whiteboard, I would recommend like having a sticky note for each basically step of the process. That way you can, pull it off, rearrange, etc. All right. But those are just some tools that you can use. Again, you can also use Figma here or Lucidchart. There's probably others. But those are ones I would recommend taking a look at. You could always just use Google Slides, PowerPoint, Canva. So there's a lot of different ways. You just need to find what works best for you. All right, a few helpful tips here. Don't rush the automation. When you're building out an automation, don't rush it. Because it is one of those things where if you set it up incorrectly at the beginning, it may run for days, weeks, months, years with a process that you may not have intended, right? So don't rush it. Take your time. Go through it. I would suggest keeping each sequence to an automation. So what do I mean by that? The more automations you build out, you'll get a better feel for it. Like how much should be included in one automation, or should I pass the contact from this automation to this automation, or should I, do X, Y, and Z? Usually I try to build one single automation with a beginning and an end, right? In that, like with that goal. So for instance, somebody opted in for a lead magnet. The goal is to get them to book a call. That will be one automation, one sequence. Now, when they book a call, that will be a separate automation, right? So you see like this one has this goal. Cool. They hit that. Now I'm going to move a whole nother automation. Cool. They booked, so they book a call. This is going to be like your confirmations and reminders. Cool. Then what's going to be next? If they don't buy, then I want to put them through a indoctrination sequence, testimonials, case studies, etc. Try to get them to come back and purchase. So again, just think through. But I've also seen people build out an automation where it's like trigger of the automation, 2 steps, then put them in this automation, 2 steps, then this automation. And it just makes it very hard to follow along, and it's more likely to break. All right. So that is that's my recommendation there. Add notes and comments so you remember why you designed it the way you did. So whether you're using a sheet like this, and you can come in here and you can put like add a comment, like, okay, why did probably the trigger may not be the best part, but you could come in here and you could put a comment, X, Y, Z. This is why I did this. This was the thought process behind it. That way, a month from now, when you come back, like why you did what you did. All right, don't get overwhelmed. Right. Like every automation is just a logical sequence of one step to the next, one step to the next, okay? There's also often more than one way to accomplish the same thing, all right? So you may have an automation built one way, I may build it a different way. Doesn't mean one's right, one's wrong. So long as they both accomplish the end goal, produce the right result, that's perfect. Another helpful tip, fewer softwares and less duct tape, the better. So I'll show you here in a second. I use Fractal CRM, which down below or somewhere here in the Academy, there's I can get you basically a coupon so that you can save $50 a month if you choose to use the platform. I highly recommend it. But before using Fractal, I use like ClickFunnels and ActiveCampaign and Calendly and all these different softwares that seem to always break, right? So the fewer softwares, the more you can have it kind of all your automations in one. Talking or just seamless, it makes it way better. All right, so that is the design part. Step 2, we're going to develop. Now, this one, I didn't know how to put slides together, so I'm just going to hop over into Fractal, and I'll actually show you here. So if we create a new workflow, and I'm just going to do start from scratch. Again, an automation is a trigger and then a series of actions. So for here, maybe if we kind of do the lead magnet one, I'm going to do form submitted. Form is there a lead magnet one? We'll just do form 4. Pretend it's the lead magnet form. All right, now what are the actions? All right, so if we kind of follow this, we're going to notify the user. So in this part, we are actually building out. All right, new lead form submission, and then you can put the contact information. All right, so first D is we're going to design it. Next, we're going to develop it. We're actually going to go in and build it out. It can be as simple as a 1 or 2 step process, or it could be something that is, 30, 40, 50 steps, or has branches. So you could do different branches here. So for instance, like if somebody opts in for a lead magnet, right? Well, we may want, are they a current client? Yes. And so maybe they have the tag client, right? And so we may not want to push a current client who opted in for the lead magnet into trying to purchase a program if they're already in the program, right? So we may have a different sequence. We may deliver the lead magnet. We may say, hey, by the way, we've got, as a current client, here's a link to a library with tons of additional resources that are, you get exclusive access to because you are a current client, right? So we can definitely break this up, segment it different ways. But that is step 2. We want to actually go in, take what we drew, what we designed, right? Whether it's a diagram like this, whether you're using something like this, but now we want to actually go into whatever software and build it. Again, if I come back here to helpful tips, fewer software is the better. This is speaking from experience. Before I use 5, 6, 7 different softwares, things were always breaking. So I do recommend, the fewer the better. Again, personally, I use Fractal CRM, which I will give you a coupon where you can get $50 off every single month. You'll also notice in all the videos in here, like when I'm building it, things like that, I'll be using Fractal CRM. So if you want to follow along, if you want me to literally just basically push into your account whatever I build, if you're like, hey, I really like that automation you built on that day, I can pull it. And if you're on Fractal CRM, I have the ability to just push it directly into your account, which if you're not on Fractal, you'll probably have to go and rebuild it yourself. All right. So step 1 was design. Check. Step 2, we're going to actually build it or develop it. Check. And then next up, we are going to deploy it. All right. So this is where we actually turn it on. So we've built this automation. Now we're going to publish it. We're going to turn it on. All right. Some helpful tips here. Run multiple tests through the automation. If we come back here to potential issues, all right. If I turn this on and I'm gonna let me cancel that. So if I end up building this out and I publish it, so I turned it on, I've deployed it. Now I want to test it. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna enter in an invalid email address. Okay, what happens? I'm going to unsubscribe and then try to opt in again. What happens there? Right? If I'm an existing contact, what happens? Again, the more you can think through and problem solve before it actually is being used by others, the better. All right? And so we're going to deploy it. We're going to turn it on. We're going to test it. And then I do recommend, once you actually deploy an automation, to closely monitor it for the next 48, 72 hours, or some period of time, so that it at least has several iterations or several times it runs. All right. So if it's something like a new lead, then if you're running ads or you're consistently generating, a handful of leads every single day, then after a couple days, you'll get a pretty good feel of, okay, is it doing all the steps? Is it producing the desired outcome, etc. All right. And so to recap, the 3D method: design, develop, deploy. All right. Follow this method and you can create flawless automations. All right. So you may be wondering what's next. Start designing, start developing, start deploying your own automations. Follow this process. It will lead to some amazing results. It will allow you to generate more revenue in less time, working fewer hours without having to hire more team members, things like that. So once you get these in place, and in one of the tips there, I mentioned don't get overwhelmed, right? So think through, okay, what's most important? All right, I really need to automate my lead gen. Okay, cool. What's the first lead generating strategy, tactic that we're going to automate? Okay, build that out. Day one, week one, whatever, right? We're going to test it. We're going to get that in place, working correctly. Awesome. Now I will move to the next one. Then I will move. Don't think of, hey, I got to automate my entire business in the next 48 hours, right? Take little bitty pieces of it and one at a time start automating. All right. So start doing it. Now, as you're going through, or if you have automations, feel free to record a quick Loom walkthrough video, post it into the Academy here on School. And periodically, I'll go through and I'll watch those videos. I'll review it. I'll leave you comments, feedback, either things that I see might be potential issue, things I see that are maybe broken in it currently, or just, hey, this is working, but here's how I would have designed it because of it would allow you A, B, and C, right? And so feel free to record those videos, post those. Now that I think about it, I may put a additional topic for automation videos, and that way we keep all those together. Finally, I don't do that many custom builds anymore, but if you have a business, you're generating revenue and stuff, and you're like, you know what, I don't really want to learn the tech side. I don't want to go and build all this out. I just want it done correctly the first time. Then just follow the steps below this video, and we can discuss what it would look like for me to just come in and build out a series of automations for you. Whether that's leads, sales, conversions, etc. Or I can show you the entire smart scaling system, which is a series of automations that really help you grow your business. So just follow the instructions below. And if you're interested in that, if not, no worries. It's perfectly fine. Like I said, I don't do too many custom builds anymore. But I do want to share my knowledge and expertise so that you can build your business in a way that allows you time and money freedom. All right. Appreciate it. And be sure to make a comment. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the Business Automation Academy. All right. See you then.